Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, today I've got a couple of cane mills that I want to try to get put together. I think I've got pretty much everything ready to go on these as far as reassembling. I know I got a couple little pieces of hardware we got to make on here. This is going to be a Golden's #2 cane mill that we're going to be restoring. I've actually got two of these, and I may try to do both of them in this video. I may only do one of them in this video. It just depends on how far along we get. I still got a little bit of work to do on the second one, but we're going to go ahead and get started on these and see where it goes. But hopefully we're going to get at least one, if not two, of these cane mills assembled in this video today. And again, it's going to require doing a little bit of machining to make some parts and get some things done along the way. Let's get at it. So this first mill that we're going to put together, I said this is Golden's #2, and it is, but this is the Golden's #2X, and then I also have a Golden's #2, a regular #2. The difference between those two mills are basically the same mill, but the 2X is a little bit taller, the rollers are a little bit higher, the sides are a little bit higher, but other than that, they're identical. But this one here, the customer specifically requested that it be powder coated, so we sent these out and had them powder coated. These mills were originally painted red. I think this is international red, which is the closest color we could get. I think the actual color was a little bit darker than this, but we kind of limited in our color options for powder coating, so this is what we kind of went with, and that was kind of what he asked for as well. So first thing I need to do is there are some set screws that kind of come in here that adjust these bottom bearings. This is where the bottom bearings go, and you can adjust them in and out. You adjust them in and out with a set screw, and it just pushes that bearing shell that has the Babbitt bearings in and out. These were the original ones, actually off of the other mill, but this is kind of the key part of this. There's a big square head nut that is captured up in this casting, and this it's got to be this particular size. It's got to be 1.25 inch square nut for it to fit. This is a 3/4 tin bolt that goes through this. You cannot get, at least I haven't been able to find, a 3/4 tin square head nut that has 1.25 inch square. They don't make them. So what are we going to do? We're going to make some. I've got some 1.25 inch square stock here, and we're going to go over to the lathe, and we're just going to basically make a couple of these. I need 4 for this mill, 4 for the other mill, so I need 8 total. So I'm just going to make these out of this piece of square stock. Fairly straightforward. We'll drill and tap a hole, and we'll kind of round over the edges here like the original. So let's go to the lathe and see if we can get that knocked out. So one of the challenges of working with square stock on a lathe is that you've got a piece with 4 sides on it, but your chuck is a 3-jaw chuck. And they do make 4-jaw chucks, obviously, but the 4-jaw chucks are usually independently done, so you have to go in here and you have to dial it in. Years ago, I was doing a job where I was needing to make a bunch of square head nuts and bolts, and to make life easier, I actually purchased a scroll chuck. So this is a 4-jaw chuck, but notice all the chucks are moving together rather than independent. So this is different from your typical 4-jaw chuck. Usually on a 4-jaw chuck, you adjust each jaw separately and you can dial things in. They're great for that purpose. For this purpose, doing more production work, I want to be able to put this in here and just dial in whatever size I need. So, or just be able to tighten it up and it be self-centering, you know, at least as much as we'll do here on the lathe. That's as far as we'll go up into the headstock. It's bottoming out in there, but we're going to be just cutting some bolts off of this. I don't think this will be a big issue. It's a little bit of stick out here. Fairly straightforward. We're just going to come in here. We're going to face the end of this. We'll center drill it. We'll drill it for whatever size we need to tap a 3/4 tin. We'll tap it, and then I'm also going to relieve these edges on the outside, and then we'll part these off to length, and we'll just continue doing that down the line until we get all these bolts made. So let's knock these out. All right, to relieve that edge, I'm just going to use the back of this cutter here. I'm just going to feed in until it kind of makes a circle all the way around. I think that's got it there. Yeah, pretty much. Just a touch more. want that to be where it's just basically cutting all the way around there. That has got those edges relieved now. We'll just do that on one side of the nut, which is just like the original. We'll start with a center drill. Just kind of get a center started there. That's all I want, is just a dimple. We're just spotting it, we're not centering it. Now I've got a 21/32 drill bit here. And we'll go ahead and drill this out. That'll be the size to tap the hole. I'm gonna drill it pretty deep. We got a bunch of these to make, and they'll just kind of help self-center the next hole. Before we tap it, I'm gonna put a little chamfer in there to kind of put a little lead in going in there. I'm going to put a little anchor lube in here to lube things up, put a little on my tap as well. We're going to power tap these. I've got my lathe slowed down. I'm just going to come in here. I'm going to just push the tailstock in there and it'll pull itself in. We'll stop, reverse, and come out. So it should just pull itself in. I'm going to stop right there. We'll reverse the lathe and bring it back out. There we go. All right, I got a parting tool in here. I'm just going to put the original nut up on here, and I'm just going to use this to kind of measure with. And that's going to be pretty close. That'll be good enough for what we're doing here. And we'll part it off. We'll use this to catch it when it comes off. Go. One down, 7 to go, same process. I'm just going to do this. We'll get them all knocked out and we'll bring you guys back. Well, there we go. I got some nuts here knocked out. I had enough material there to make 12 nuts with that 24-inch piece of material that I had, and a little bit, probably an inch or two left over. But basically that's an extra set of nuts. I'm going to need 8 for the 2 that I'm doing here. I'll put these up, and next time I do a Golden's number 2, I won't have to worry about making hardware for it. So that'll help out. So again, this nut will capture right there, and then we'll run the set screw up through there and tighten that up, and then that'll all be ready to go. We'll get both of these going and get our bearing shells popped in there. All right, so I got these in here. Once we get them adjusted, we'll tighten up this jam nut, and that'll fix it in place. But right now I just got them started, and I'm going to put the rest of these nuts up, and we'll need 2 more for the top. All right, let's get our bearing shells going in there. So now I'm going to take my bearing cups here. This one will drop in right here. This one drops in right here. And then we have this little shell here, fits in right there, and that's where our 3 rollers are going to run on. So, and these are just half shell bearings. The way these work is when you feed the cane in, it's going to be pushing outward on all 3 of these, so there really only needs bearing on one side. So that's the way these are made. So let me get my rollers. We're going to go ahead and drop these in, and we can continue building this thing up. Got my gantry frame set up over here. We're going to pick this roller up. I've just got a couple of C-clamps kind of gripping it in the top there, and we got a roller or a strap on here. Let's see if I can tell you, I'm going to get a clevis and put up there. It'll slide better on that strap. Grab that. this clevis in here. These straps just are easier to adjust on that than it is on that hook. I'm going to kind of roll this over the edge here, get it sitting more straight up and down. All right, let's try that. This roller's just a little bit too heavy for me to pick up by myself. Actually, it's a lot too heavy for me to pick up by myself. Before I set that in there, I'm going to put a little oil on those bearings. And what I typically will use on these is just some vegetable oil. This is food safe oil, obviously. And just make sure we don't put anything in there that might contaminate the syrup later on. So I'm just going to take and just put a little light layer oil on this bearing. Not a whole lot, just kind of wetting it, but it'll make a big difference. All right. Do the same thing here. I'm going to put some oil down in these bearing halves, just a little bit. I'm not trying to get carried away with it. On the small rollers, there's two of these, and they are different. If you at first look, they don't look a whole lot different, but one of them is actually a little bit larger than the other. And the way this works is the smaller roller is going to be the first roller, and then the larger roller will be the second roller. And the idea here is that you adjust these two rollers where the first one kind of pre-crushes the cane and the second one finishes crushing it. So you want the smaller roller on the first side. Now, you can set these mills up to feed from either side. Typically, you feed in from this side over here, at least, looking at the drawings. Actually, you feed in from this side over here, rather looking at the drawing or the catalog picture. That's kind of how they got them drawn. They come in from this side and they come out. But you can configure them either way. You just change the rotation direction. But I want to get the smaller roller, which I just measured this. This one back here is the smaller one. So I'm just going to wipe a little bit of that oil on that journal down there, and let me get that picked up. I'm going to roll it down here to the end where I can grab a hold of it a little bit easier. I'm going to drop it down in there. Same thing on this one. So on top of these rollers, there are some gears that drive everything. These drop down. This one here will drop down over here like such. And it just kind of catches into some cogs that are built on top of that gear. That one fits here. There's two smaller ones that fit on these other two. Let me grab those. These two smaller gears. These gears are the same. They fit on one or the other here, but even though the rollers are different, the gears on the top are the same, so it doesn't matter which one goes where. There we go. And again, they kind of fit over here and kind of lock into the roller down below, like such. Top piece is heavy. I think I can manage it. All right. These side panels kind of act like spacers. The top is just kind of set down on it and it'll properly space everything. This one here fits in the side. This is where you feed the cane in. There is a spacer on this side. The other side's just left open. It doesn't have anything to, a panel on that side. All right, I think we got them all in. And now I've got some studs that'll go through here, and this just pulls everything together. Let me get the nuts for it. This is all new hardware. And this is the last stud holding everything together. Get it put in. I'm going to tighten all these up now. All right. So just like before, we got these nuts. These are captured up into a square pocket in here. And I'm just going to hold that in there, and I'll screw in from this side the set screw. And same thing up here. That gets captured. Set screw screws in. All right, putting a little oil on these top bearings, and it just drops right in there. This one drops in right there. And then this one here drops in back there. So the next step is I need to get my rollers adjusted so that we have a gap in here and that they're set same at the top and the bottom. It says over here on the side that the minimum amount that you want to set these is to 1/8 of an inch. So it says least distance to set feed rolls apart 1/8 of an inch. In my experience, you know, you're going to need to adjust these mills as you start using them. But I like about 3/8 of an inch to start with on the in-feed side and 1/4 of an inch on the out-feed side. And to do the settings, what I've got is I've just got some steel here. This happens to be a piece of 3/8 steel. I'm going to kind of just put it up in here between the rollers, and I'm just going to adjust things out until I get it where it just kind of fits up in there. This is just something you have to adjust when you start using the mill. It's not something that you can really just immediately get just right coming right out of the, you know, being restored. But, you know, we'll just start where we are here and go from there. So I'm kind of right about where I want to be right here. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and just snug these up. Make sure that bottom one is hitting the bearing. It is. And we'll set that there. So I just use a piece of stock, and that's good. Same thing on this side. I'm going to use a piece of 1/4 inch stock. You know, we'll kind of set that bearing out there. I'll snug that one up. And the same thing down here on the bottom. There we go. So that's just, again, rough set. have to adjust them once they get it started. Now, let's make sure everything's going to spin like it's supposed to. Let me get something to put up there to get some leverage, and we'll rotate it. Roll it around. And it's rolling pretty good. It will turn this way. That'll pull the cane in. And of course, once the cane gets in there, it'll pull between these rollers and just kind of press out. But that feels real good. Okay, there's this little hole right here, and what I need to do is kind of turn this. I'm looking down in there, and I want to get the gears where the scraper will kind of fit down through them. This just drops down. What this does is this kind of rubs up against these rollers in there and basically keeps the cane from wrapping back around. And it'll just kind of fit down in there, and that's going to work just fine there. All right. We've got the covers here to cover up the bearings. Need to grab the right bolt to go down through there. Bolt to go on there. All right. These mule-drawn cane mills would have had a walking beam to go across the top. This is where you would mount a pole to, and basically a mule would walk around in a circle, and that is what would power the mill. And this mill here, the walking beam, the original walking beam was gone, and they had fabricated this one here. I'm just putting it back on there because that's what we were provided. I'm not sure what his plans is for this mill, whether he's going to use a beam up here to turn it, or whether he's going to try to motorize this or what, but I'm just going to put this back on here because that's what came on it. And with that, guys, this mill is finished. I'm going to put a little wooden frame up underneath this where I can pick it up with a forklift up under the bottom a little bit easier, and so we can load it out. And where it's just not sitting on the frame, I'll actually mount it on the 3 mounting points. But other than that, I think it's ready to go back to its rightful owner. And there it is, all finished up. This one is ready to go back to the customer. I got it on a little, I just made a little frame for it to sit on. I can come in here with my forks and pick it up on these edges. I got just enough room to get up underneath it to be able to load it. This thing's difficult to pick up with a strap. So making a little pallet kind of for it to sit on really helps out, and it'll be easier to load up and get out the door. So now I got another number 2. This, like I said, was a 2X. It's a little bit taller. My number 2 just a little bit shorter, but otherwise identical to this one. I'm going to break it out next. We're going to go ahead and get it done. I do still need to set up the big roller over on the big lathe and turn those journals. It's already welded up. I just never did finish it up, so I got to do that. And same process as this one. So let's get that one knocked out as well. And I'll have 2 of these cane mills finished up. Well, I got this top drum off of this other cane mill, this number 2 Goldens, and we're basically turning the journals down. I had already welded these up some time ago. This just been sitting around the shop waiting to get done. So we'll go ahead and get this turned out today. We'll go ahead and get these top and bottom journals done. Basically, if you didn't see the video where we did these before, the metal was kind of pitted. It was below the surface where it needed to be, so I welded these up on a weld positioner, and now I'm turning them back down to the proper size, just cutting off the material that we put in there to get these trued back up back to their original size, so they'll fit the bearings and everything will work good. I got to do the top and the bottom, get them turned out to the right size. We'll go ahead and get this knocked out, and once that's done, we can start putting this mill together as well. So we'll finish this up and we'll be back. So I think we're ready to start building this one out. I went ahead and built a little pallet to mount this thing on before I got started. It was kind of aggravating to have to pick up the whole K-mill. So this time I just said, you know what, I'm just going to build this first and then build everything up on it. Make life a little bit easier for me. So as before, the first thing we need to do is get our little set screws in the bottom. Again, I got my handmade nuts that we made that will fit up in here, and everything should be ready to go here. These just capture into the casting again. Let's take our bearing cups, drop those in place. And drop that bearing shell in there. Manhandled this one. The other one was just a little bit too heavy. Had to break out the crane, but yeah, we can get this in here. There we go. Put a little oil on this bearing journal. Just like with the other one, these smaller rollers, there's two different sizes. Put the smaller one in on the in-feed side and the larger one on the out-feed side. Got the big drive gear. Drop it on there. Small drive gear on this. There we go. And this one. All right, this one goes in the back here. This panel goes right here. There we go. And it'll fit right here. This one goes right here. And there's a feed panel that goes in the side here. Now, let's see if we can get this one to fit in there just right. There we go. This bearing back here. And I'm going to double check, make sure everything's still turning good. And it is. That mill is finished. Well, I said I was finished, but I got one thing left to do, and that's to drop the scraper in. And I think it'll go right there. I just happened to stop in the right spot. Sometimes you have to move it around to get those gear teeth to line up just right. But there we go. We're all good. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed watching this little restoration project, putting these back together. Glad to get these two mills kind of out of the way, out of the shop, and back to their rightful owners where they can be used and put back into operation. It's really a lot of fun to kind of help to keep this tradition of making syrup the old-fashioned way, whether it be cane syrup or sorghum syrup, whatever the people are using these mills for. I enjoy being able to help preserve that history. This was a very common practice back in the late 1800s, early 1900s in farm use, rural life. You didn't have money to go buy sugar, so you raised your own cane or sorghum. You crushed it down, you made syrup, you could boil it down, actually turn it into sugar and use it on the farm rather than buying store-bought sugar back in the day. And there has been a resurgence of that in the later years here, and there's quite a few people out there that are still keeping that tradition alive. And again, I've enjoyed being able to help keep these mills going as well. I will note these Golden's mills, they were originally painted red according to the documentation that I've been able to find on them. Nobody's ever, I haven't ever really found an exact color match anywhere. All I've seen is that they were described as being a dark brick red. So I think that the color was really more like this color red than that international red on that other mill. Not that it really matters that much. And at the end of the day, you know, I always ask my customers, what color do you want to paint your mill? And, you know, it just depends on what they want to do. Different people have different thoughts on it, and it's fairly easy to make that work. But I do believe that this color is probably a little bit closer match than that other red, that international red, but that was the color powder coat that we could get in red. That was the closest thing in the powder coat we could get. Honestly, I think I like painting them better than powder coating them, but you know, it is what it is. All right, guys. With that, I believe that is going to be a wrap. As always, thanks so much for watching. Please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Those thumbs up and comments are always greatly appreciated. Hit that bell icon up there to get notification when new videos are posted. As always, a big, huge thank you to those who support the site financially through Patreon, PayPal, and YouTube memberships, all of which are great ways to help out my channel or any other YouTube creators channel that you feel like you get value out of. Big, huge thank you to you guys to do that. And with that, we're going to sign off. We'll get out of here. We'll catch you on the next video. Again, as always, thanks for watching.